Hello, my name is Victoria, and today we're going to be talking about our event tracker in coordination with dashboards to share calendars. Um, Now, something important to understand is we have multiple partners who service different schools, counties, and districts across California. And each of those schools and districts have their own dashboard. Um, so that's over 30 different dashboards, all with events going on. Previously, this was a much bigger manual effort than it is now. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Now, for Smartsheets, previously we had different calendars, which were all different sheets in Google Drive for each and every school. Now we have one single sheet, which is a source of all of our events for all of our partners, all of our coordinators, anyone who's hosting an event, and puts it all onto the same sheet. Then that becomes an easy source for data collection, and for understanding what is done each fiscal year. Also, it makes it easier to organize. When I'm doing quarterly reporting, I can easily identify what quarters are what. Our last software wouldn't let me do the kind of personalization to easily pull those quarters out. And also, previously, we were having to rebuild calendars every single year. So this allows me to have just one build for the grant cycle, and just continue use of that. No rebuild needed, so that's saving time. There is cleanup needed and archival needed, but it is not rebuilding these systems, which also then makes it easier for transitions between each year. There are a few other items that I will be adding in the future, or I hope to add. There's a few other data points I would like to collect. And there's also some additional automation I'd like to build in to collect attendance for these different events. Right now, that is a manual process. We're going to take a look at what this workflow looks like. But first, we're going to take a couple steps back and just orient you to what it is I'm even referring to. So before I jump into the workflow, we're going to take a quick look. What I do to easily navigate everything is I've created just a simple Google Doc that holds links. One column you see here is for the viewer. These are the links that we send to the districts. These are the links that we send to the schools, whoever that is applicable for. And then right next to it, I have my editing link. Now, when I pull up a school dashboard or a district dashboard, I can take a look, and my district dashboards, along with all my schools and everybody else, has a calendar widget. This calendar widget is personalized, of course, for whoever this dashboard is for. You can adjust the view in a couple different ways. It can be multi-month, you can do it by quarter, whatever honestly makes the most sense. And the way that I have it automatically done is to also sort by intended audience so that we can have a good sense of who different events are applicable for. Okay, so this is how our schools and districts see it. In comparison, the way that I see it internally and my partners see it is as a sheet. Let me go ahead and give this a refresh. And this sheet is sorted by year and quarter. There's some conditional formatting created so that we can see what is the current year, what is the previous quarter. All my partners have to do is they simply go in here, they input whatever information is being requested. As soon as they save this, I get an email once a day, so that's not too many, but I get an email once a day notifying me of entries, and I go through and I sort these. And I use some of the different functions here to do that sorting. The viewers are not able to do that. They are able to enter new information, but they're not able to sort. I keep that as my own function. It helps keep things a bit more simplified and clean. There's also other formatting that I've built in here. And we're going to dive into that a little bit later, but I just wanted to show you basics, right? This is a sheet. Every single quarter has a ton of different events entered, and I request, you can see it here along the top, all of the different items that I request of people. Some of these are required all the time, some of them are not. I use my conditional formatting to highlight items that are missing that are required. So this is where they enter it. Now, I want to take a look and return, like I said, back to what our mapping is. This is a pretty complicated system, but you'll definitely be able to figure it out. That sheet that I was just showing you is our source. Okay, this is our information source right here in the center. This information source is made available via widget. So I created a simple dashboard that I use as a widget to share with my partners and my coordinators. What do I mean by a widget? Well, when my coordinators want to add something, this is what it looks like to them. They come to their dashboard, they scroll down, and they see their widget. I created this widget because it is a new system, and sometimes we have a lot of turnover in different partners in their staffing. So we need to make sure that this information is always available for how to use this system. I do that by breaking it down in little short video tutorials. I try to keep these videos maybe tops 4 or 5 minutes, much shorter than what this will be. They then get the link here, and the link brings them to here where they can actually do their entering. Because that information is the same across both, that is why I've decided to create it through this widget. Okay, so one more time, this is our source of information. A widget was created and made available for those who need to do the input of the information. Okay. Of course, then once they input it, it shows up on the origination source. I'm going to skip the slides for now. From the origination source, I then have some different automations here and here to sort it out by district and by school. Once each sheet receives that information, you then go into the calendar app. Oh my gosh. You then go into the calendar app and you tell the app how you want that calendar to look. This is where I told the calendar that I wanted it by intended audience. This is where I told it how I want that default view to be. And this is also where you tell it which information to show up on the calendar, because you don't necessarily want the whole sheet of information on the calendar. Then finally, once that calendar is created, it then gets input onto the school dashboard as that widget that I showed you. Okay, so it is a multi-step process. This process here is on the simpler side as far as mapping goes. That said, there are quite a few things that are built into it. Okay. So on my mapping, not only do I describe the flow of information, but I also break down these different functions that are being used inside the actual event tracker. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at inside the tracker and what some of these different functions are. I'm gonna go close some of these different things. Okay. So first thing I want to differentiate is an app versus some of these different functions. These apps are build outs or built-ins into Smartsheet. These are all located here. So if I say calendar, if I say data shuffle, these are apps. Versus in the actual tracker, this is what I'm talking about. So the first thing that I refer here to is conditional formatting. I have conditional formatting for quite a few different things in our tracker. The first thing that is conditionally formatted are the quarters. I've set it up so that each quarter is color coded. Green being the current, blue being the most recent, and gray either being past or future, ones that we're not particularly as focused on. Additionally, there's formatting for events that may be canceled or are input errors. That's based on the status. So let me show you what the status bar looks like. The status you'll see is over here and is a drop down. The status you'll see here is a drop down. And then these yellow sections are missing information. So this is required, but it's not there. However, it's not required for all, so I do differentiate that as well. When I take a look at my conditional formatting, you have to take a look at that through the editor view. The conditional formatting is here. Let me show that again. I'll go a little bit slower because I'm so zoomed in. I have to go through these dots. Conditional formatting is right here. It's this little grid. And again, if it's duplicate, input error, cancel, I have it gray out and cross out. If information is missing, I have it yellow. And this one is longer because that column I mentioned is only required in certain conditions. So I'm specifying those conditions. As far as attendance is another important one that has additional build out, right? I have attendance. It's only required after the event's been put in. So you can specify all of that information in your conditional formatting because Of course, they can't put attendance until then. I then also pre-condition all of my quarters. And then as we go through the quarters, I manually go through and I change what color coding it is going to be. So once the month changes, I'll go in, I'll change this color to show up instead as gray. And then I'll change this one to show as blue. And then I'll show the current quarter to show as green. So again, this is just as you move through the year. So again, that's just conditional formatting. Once I have my conditional formatting, I also need to make sure that, oops. I also need to make sure that I can do my sorting easy. Sort, whenever a new event is added, it just plops right down here into the bottom. If there's a lot of events, I do the sort process twice. I do it immediately to get these down here organized. I'll plop them where they need to be. So for example, if I have one event, let's say for 1/20/24, let's say I have another event for 4/20/24, and then another one for 8/20/24, and then another one 1/25/24. Right, you never know what order they're going to pop in because you have multiple partners entering these. So what I do is I go here, go start date, I sort rows, I sort by start date, start time, and then I sort by support entity. I hit OK. So now it puts them where they need to be. I go here, and then I indent. I don't really want to do that right now because I don't want to ruin it, but I'll indent. Then I'll do that same process again. Once they're indented, they'll disappear into the drop down. So then again, I'll just sort rows, sort by start date, start time, and support entity. And it'll organize each drop down as well. I'm not gonna, I guess I can show you. Let's try. Go indent. So you see those disappear. Actually, let me do it with this one because there's less events here. Indent. So once it's indented, you see it disappeared. And then you can see it's down here at the bottom, but you see it's not in chronological order. So sort rows, start date, start time, and support entity. And now it's placed it into the correct order. Okay. So let me go back. I don't want to save any of those changes. So that's conditional formatting and sort. Okay. Those are the more visible functions that's happening. There's also a lot of functions that are happening that are kind of behind the scenes, right? This is the question of how do I get it from one page to another page? So we're going to take a look at two workflows, copy row and send alert. Okay. How do I get there? Well, you get there by going to automations, manage workflows. Okay. The first workflow that I added is to alert someone when I've got these changes. So anytime, like I mentioned, whenever someone enters a new row, or if they change some information, I get notified through email. There's also a couple other partners who need to get notified about that. That is, again, alert. The other functions I have here is to move it between sheets, okay? So before you can get to this step, you need to make individual sheets for each school. Once you have the destination sheets created, then that's when you can create these functions. So when a row is added and these conditions are met, when it includes these different schools, or different allocation, then that should copy the row, right? I'm not moving it, I'm copying it to that destination sheet that I've created specifically for that school. Okay. So let's take a look here and see where that brings us in our mapping, right? Again, hopefully I'm keeping it simple enough. Everyone goes through their dashboard and enters the information into the tracker. The tracker then sorts it by quarter and then copies the information to the individual school or district's dashboard. Okay. Now that they're in school or district dashboards, or sorry, school or district school sheets, individualized sheets, now I need to make a calendar. Again, to make a calendar is pretty simple. You go to apps, you go to calendar. It's going to ask you a few different things. Let's just open one here. Sure, let's do this one. Actually, let's do a whole count. So in your calendar, oops, that's not what I meant. In the calendar, I'm going to just show you one that's created already. It'll have you do a few things. The first couple steps is it'll have you choose your destination or your source sheet and your destination sheet. Then it'll choose your default view. It'll ask you what information you want to show and how you want to group it. So again, I grouped it by intended audience. I'm telling it which items I would like to be on the front view when they open the calendar. I'm telling them what additional information I'd like to be added from the sheet, right? It's not all of my columns I'm adding, I'm just adding these specific ones. I'm telling it where to start that view from. You can add your logo. You have to add your logo afterwards. This is a task that happens once you edit it, not while you're creating it. I don't know why. Maybe it'll be changed in the future. As you review it and update. I didn't make any changes, so I'm going to hit cancel. So now that that is created, right? Now we can share it. So we go here, sharing, and you can share it through the publish link. You want to make sure you're publishing it so it's viewable. You grab this link, and that's the link that you then put into the dashboard itself. So one more time, right? Create the main sheet for the master tracker. Create a widget explaining how to use it and place it to whatever dashboard that information needs to be shared with. Once you have the main tracker, you can begin functioning the workflows to copy to the various locations. Those copy sheets each creates a calendar. That calendar, then you link into the dashboard so that the schools and districts can actually view it. Um, I will be going back and creating a whole system for this for our new cycle with new schools. So I'll do a video of what the process actually looks like. Um, but there are a few other things and a few other functions that this sheet also gives me the ability to do. Just like I create the workflows for each school or district, I also create a sheet for each quarter and it sorts them out by quarter. This is where I then can manipulate the data analysis. This is a whole other process video that I'm gonna have to go over. I also create a workflow for it to pull together the whole year's worth of information for data analysis as well. And this gets shared to a different group of people. So in the end, you're creating a lot of individualized sheets, but really you're primarily once everything's set up, you're just working in this one and everything else will clean themselves up. There are a couple other functions that I've built in, but again, I can show that when I build the new system. Let's see here. So one thing to note about Smartsheets is that you do have a limited amount of data that you can hold. So because of that, you do need to clear out that data. During those yearly transitions, I go ahead, I use that new workflow to sort off the old information and I clear it out as it's not needed. And because I'm clearing out the old information, then my partners just continue to use the same sheet. That was quite a lot of information. That was quite a lot of information. And this is, again, just more of an overview. I didn't get to go into detail of the actual, I'm building it and taking you step by step. I will be doing another build and I'll record that process as I go, so that you can get a better sense of how to do that yourself as well. I haven't created this as a template for Smartsheets. I'm not in that part of the system, but this is definitely something that's been very helpful and I've had other people who've needed this. So I hope this actually helps a little bit. Please definitely let me know if you have questions, if there's something specific you want to see. If you have some basic understandings of Smartsheets, I believe this should be enough information to get you rolling. But again, I hope to dig in more. I'll be putting out more videos about how to build the Smartsheet systems that I use, and what that all looks like as time continues. So keep your eyes out and definitely let me know if there's something more you want to see.